Sunshine State, the great state of Florida. And what does your Uncle Charlotte always say? The craziest people in America come from the Bronx and all of Florida.
I'm Big Bubba crossing my black car. It's booby traps and pit bulls crossing my backyard. I'm still strapped, boy, these handguns on Vanguard. I like going against the grain cause my head hard. Bae, I used to thug hard to see this crack hard. I don't thug nothing but the motherfucking task force. Me and two Root running shit, we like the fat boys. Paid cash for it, so I try this and fast forward. I put it all in your face like you asked for. Most of you love frontin' like the dashboard. I get it chalked out like the blackboard. I got the ghetto off glass like the backboard. Most of my niggas ride till it ain't no gas for. We been outside like ain't no map for. Been outside like ain't no map for.
I swear to God, these motherfucking jets in Florida is different. Man, I was at this house the other night. Gave her a little son one melatonin, thinking this little motherfucker gonna go to sleep. Hell nah, the little motherfucker ain't go to sleep. I ended up giving this little the whole goddamn bottle. He ate them all. It was up all motherfucking night.
I'm in all white ones. Picture could get me a Cy Young. We feel like nuns. No giving like Spice One. We feel like bums. Don't change, then I might run. Feel like buns. Shit sit when the price jump. I got white bumps. These bags kill it price plump. You only die once. I know you a snake with a sliced tongue. I can't trust you, I'ma dust you. Ain't no checking temperature. It's you, then it's you. These laws I'm stuck to. You know how many 12-12s I run through? My get cut, but my girlfriends get cut loose. My get hit like kung fu. I love the streets, but they never told me I love you.
Yeah, I already know. I'm straight from Florida, G. You know, bottom of the motherfucking map. Home of motherfucking Uncle Luke. Home of Trick Daddy. Home of Kodak Black. Nothing but gold teeth, bricks, and motherfucking sticks. You already know. Bottom of the map. FLA. Shaped like a motherfucking Hezbollah. Have it, want it.
Oh, Jesus.
Listen, man, I hit a bitch one time, man, the baby was bouncing all over the bed.
Cut through the texture of pasta, I stretch to the father. My demons can't be stressing my daughter. Sweat Benihana, know it's a rap. Wait enchilada.
Deion Sanders is the greatest football player, arguably, to ever live. Ed Reed, the greatest safety, arguably, to ever live in the entire universe. All right? Why y'all not going on live? Miami been trashed for fucking how long now? God damn.
I like you got up some cases. I like you got up some cases. I like you got up some skates.
I want somebody to invent something like, say like, I love oxtail. If I can eat some that tastes like oxtails while I'm down there, just for that moment.
He's on my back. You know what I mean? And, you know, I think, you know, I feel like his thing is like on my neck.
I've had two guys.
Same time?
No, I'm not that girl.
Yes, man.
The best
Appreciate
motherfucking podcast in Orlando, Florida.
You already know.
We
The
appreciate
Sunshine
it. State, man.
Welcome back. You're now on the bench podcast with Bubba and Pink, home of sports, music, and mayhem. We're doing this social media thing today. First time going live, well, in a long time. First time on TikTok. Been a while since IG. So let us know how it looks because we have no idea. All right, so we're going to try this thing out. You know, I got a little trip starting tomorrow, so we can't go live on YouTube like we normally do. We're always on YouTube every week and all podcast streaming platforms. All righty, but so we're trying this thing out. All right, and we're going to be talking some NBA playoffs. We're going to be talking some NFL. We're going to be talking a couple of things that's trending in sports, music, entertainment, mayhem, all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
I was thinking earlier today, Pink. My dad has this guy. I call him my uncle, but really it's just his best friend, right?
Yeah.
And he, like, when I was young, he would always just figure things out, like anything that has something to do with mechanical, physical, anything like that. Like even if he didn't know, like he would figure it out and get it done. You know what I'm saying? Stan, that's his name, Stan. And it's like, what's funny about that is like I adapted a lot of that, right? So like, yeah, because even like with things like this, more so with technology, but with things like this, you know, I was supposed to hook up with our guy Royal and we're going to get him on here soon. But he was going to show me how to do this right here. There's on Restream and all of this. But I just took a day and I was like, I'm just going to figure this out today. Whatever it takes, I'm not going to let this get the best of me. I'm going to figure this out, you know. And some people, you know, it's funny because you look at like Anthony Edwards, right? And I scoff at when they say, oh, you know, he learned so much from Kevin Durant and LeBron in the Olympics thing. And you hear that about other players when it's their first time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But, you know, it's funny because you can pick up some things. You know, everything doesn't have to be passed down from your parents. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. For sure. No, my dad was the guy who could figure everything out. I can't figure anything out. But I was a kid. It's like, why would we duplicate our efforts? You've got this.
You got this, right? You're holding it down.
Let me focus on
other stuff. Before we get into the NBA playoffs, the NFL, man, I wanted to tackle this. This is like caught a wildfire and all of that stuff. There it goes. But you have this one gorilla versus 100 men thing, right?
Yeah.
Now listen, I've seen a bunch of like people attack this in different ways. People are really like trying to figure out who's going to win. All right. Now here's my first question to this is, okay, is this like 100 real men or is this like Bubba and Pink men? No, I mean, what kind of men?
No, I'm insulted, man.
What?
About like Bati boys and stuff, but nah, I would number myself among the real men.
Because listen,
I've thought about this. You know, I really feel like, you know, I would be a proper strategist in this dynamic.
Go ahead. How would you go about it?
Okay. All right. So you got to realize if we're assuming no weapons, just, you know, basically fists, you got 100 guys. You got to have a plan. 100 guys can't be within striking distance of the gorilla and vice versa. So basically you have to attack in waves. And you've got to have the idea that you know, a bunch of dudes are going to die. And we've got to be okay with that. You know, we're going to let some guys die. But our strategy here is to play the game of fatigue, you know, because there's only one gorilla and we're going to try to wear him out. So the idea is you don't want to just charge at him, you know, get knocked down, get thrown across the fucking field or whatever, and you're done quickly. The idea is you want units of maybe 3 to 5 guys at a time doing coordinated attacks. And you're kind of baiting the gorilla to attack one of the guys, and then the other guys like counter off of that and get some strikes. So, the idea.
So ideally, you want one of the men to be a war veteran, a war hero, a decorated war hero that can organize this thing.
I just organize it. I mean,
but you know, without any, you know, you put you in front of 100 men without any, you know, decorations behind you. People may not listen, you know.
At their peril. No, but the idea of this is you want to drag the gorilla into the deep water and down. You want each unit to basically kind of like exhaust the gorilla as much as possible, strike damage when you can. And then you actually probably want to have your absolute best fighters in the last 25 guys so that they're taking on what we hope to be is an exhausted gorilla.
So I have a list. I'm not going to go through all 100, but somebody did the work and put together 100 names of folks that should be in this 100 men. Okay. So I'm just going to go through a couple that may sound interesting or funny. Okay.
Why not top of the list?
Who?
I know who's at the top of the list. John Jones.
John Jones is on here. John Jones is on here.
Yeah.
You got Ray Lewis is on here. And we're talking about prime guys, not like 60-year-old guys here when you hear the names.
A little bit back in the day. But Ray Lewis, he
Yeah,
wrestled
yeah,
a
yeah.
little back
You
in the
got
day.
Shaq.
Shaq.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You got they put Aaron the plumber. I don't know if they're just being funny. You know the guy who's trending the 20 verse one, the guy he's both and
Oh, oh,
the funny guy. Uh,
yeah,
then Brock Lesnar. They got guys like that. Terrence Bud Crawford. So they do got some serious names on here. You got
yeah,
but
yeah.
they also go funny. You got Mystical. You know the one famous
Miss,
line. If you see me in a forest, help the bear. You know what I mean? That's like his famous line. You know what I mean?
that's not, I remember from his catalog. But go ahead.
I'm not sure why Marvin Sapp is on here. They should have explained that. Uh,
He locked him in the church and demanded money.
okay, so he's about his business.
Retreating if Marvin Sapp's got the door key.
You got Draymond Green, big tough ass. That's what it say on here. That's hilarious. And then some really funny ones. Okay, you got Faison Love. I think that's hilarious. Okay,
Yeah.
you got Solange Knowles because she in the elevator.
Yeah, but we ain't fighting Jay-Z. We're fighting the gorilla. She's on the bench.
You got who else is on here? You got Uncle Jerome from Snowfall. I think that's funny. And then you got Baby D from Next Friday. They got on here. The white folks that stormed the Capitol.
Those motherfuckers got rebelled. They're losers.
Oh man, but yeah, that's hilarious. Chris Brown off a powder bag. That's hilarious.
I would go with like some legit like special forces
Yeah.
guys. I would go with some of the tougher guys in MMA circles, like Francis Ngannou. You got to have him in there.
Yeah, for sure. But in all, I know everybody is saying, most people are saying like, there's no way 100 men could beat one gorilla. But call me crazy, but I think if you get the right 100, okay, I think that can happen. First of all, these gorillas are not as large as what these pictures and videos are showing. AI what's going around right now,
Yeah.
and we're smarter, we have more stamina, and we can get it done.
Well, I tend to agree with you if you have a strategy, and that I was coming in like you intentionally want to wear the gorilla down, and you got to kind of use your 100 guys, and that's why I was like, hold your best 25 for the end when hopefully they get to square up with what would be a fatigue gorilla. And that's the idea. Coordinated attacks so that he's got, whatever he tries to do, there's like, I mean, it's like the idea of boxing where you're countering moves, but the way we counter the gorillas with the multiple guys, with 3, 4, 5 guys working in a group. So if he goes to strike a guy, bam, 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 we're hitting him. He turns to do that, we're hitting him on the backside. So wherever he goes, he's getting hit in the back.
Facts. All right. Now let's talk some NBA playoffs, man. Let's talk some NBA playoffs, man. So the game that just ended, the Milwaukee Indiana game, right? We saw that. Now it went to overtime, and first of all, shout out to Giannis, man. Just he's never going to lay down. I was talking to somebody earlier about what should they take with the spread, because a lot of these teams in the closeout games, they just they just haven't shown up. You got the Miami Heat last night, Memphis Grizzlies a couple of days ago. So some of these guys in these closeout games so far just haven't been showing up. But I'm like, listen, Giannis is not laying down for anybody. He whatever. And so so the game goes to overtime. It's an exciting game. That series, along with some others, have been physical. We'll talk about that later, right? But where does your head go after this series? What are you thinking? Are you thinking, okay, Pacers versus Cavs, or are you thinking, damn, where does Giannis go now?
I would say, damn, where does Giannis go? I don't think the Pacers threaten the Cavs very much. I'll be very surprised if they do. But, we have one of the great talents in the game on a team that's going nowhere. Dame's hurt. be out probably a year minimum. There's nothing else on that roster that isn't old, decrepit, or just plain crappy. And so I thought Giannis should have left Milwaukee right after he won the title, and he was a mistake to not do that. But there's no question now he's got to leverage himself out of there and get to a place where he can enjoy the rest of his career without, just being miserable playing with, carrying guys that literally don't deserve to be carried.
Yes and no. I mean, as far as the timing, Milwaukee they've been a franchise that have done a lot, like as far as trying things to upgrade that roster. You know what I mean? So, like, it's one thing to be on a team where the franchise like rarely makes moves, rarely takes chances with the roster and things like that to improve it. Never spend money, etc. Milwaukee, at the very least, and being in a small market, they have like done things like the Kyle Kuzma thing. And I told you when it happened, like you wasn't a Kyle Kuzma guy. I'm not either. But it's like, okay, Chris Middleton is done. Okay, how can we flip Chris Middleton into a serviceable piece? And I thought at least Kyle Kuzma would be serviceable. Now he hasn't been, and but I think that was okay. Now, they messed up and let Holiday go. But a lot of people love Dave. And Giannis was in on that move,
And I was one of them, and I was right.
Yeah.
I'm taking the win on that. But no, they're like, I agree with you. The front office has been persistent in trying to add to this roster, but it just hasn't always worked out in the way that they would hope. You have to just accept that if you're Giannis, because again, I don't think they have much in the way of pick resources. They have, like Dame's with an Achilles tear is not even like a movable asset. Like you can't even, get anybody to bite on that. Lopez is, I think, 36, 37 years old. They literally don't have anything to move, and they're just stuck. I mean, and I think it would be like a gift to both Milwaukee and to Giannis to work out a trade that allows Milwaukee to kind of reboot and maybe get some picks or some young players or some things and let Giannis, compete in the final years of his career. I would say final prime years of his career, because he can still really play. And I just don't see any other way. Because there's just no pathway. They spent a lot of money, but the Dame injury is just devastating, because you can't even pivot off of him and turn him into something else at this point.
No, that's true. No, I agree. I agree. Once again, you're still on the bench podcast with Bubba and Pink, Coma Sports Music and Mayhem. We're available on all podcast streaming platforms, including here, wherever you're watching on IG or TikTok. But our main channel is on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Now, let's argue a little bit. I know we're on the opposite sides of this thing.
Ooh, what is this?
This is the Luka thing. Let me cook for a second. All right, let me cook for a second, because I'm gonna take a long road. Huh?
I said that's about as long as he played defense.
I'm gonna travel down a long road to get to a destination right across the street. All right. I look at basketball different than a lot of people. First of all, it's interesting in like talking basketball with different people. Some people, just it's no need to have a conversation with, and then some people, whatever. But I know me, I have a different way of looking at basketball and evaluating basketball. Now, a lot of times, especially with my teams and my favorite players, the way I look at basketball, that it lends me to be right more than I'm wrong. All right. I'm not right all the time, but about 90, 95% of the time, I'm dead right. You know what I mean? Now, with Luka, I've never said like Luka was the best player in the league. I never said like he's a GOAT or up there with the best ever or whatever. But what I have said is he's my favorite player to watch, and nobody can do anything with that white boy. It's my favorite term to use. Okay. And so when you get here now, the narrative is shifting, and I see it shifting in real time. Like today, the main talk on the national platforms is, wait a minute, Nico was right. Let's take a bigger step in, and oh man, Luka is not even top 3, top 5. He's not top 10. The one guy was like, yeah, Anthony Edwards is way better. Look what's happening now, and then it going to other players. And I think that's nuts. When you look at the history of basketball, right? Like Michael Jordan is widely regarded as the greatest player of all time. When you ask most people throughout my history of living, most people that have that conversation say Michael Jordan is the greatest. But when you take way I watch basketball is I say, okay, Scottie Pippen, in my opinion, is the greatest defender ever. But no matter how you slice it, what metric you use, he's top 5 perimeter defender ever, no matter what you utilize or what you see. And then you have a large section of people who would say Dennis Rodman is a better defender than Scottie Pippen. They have him higher in the rank. So he's a certified Hall of Famer and that. And then you go to, one of the greatest overseas players of all time, all the knockdown 40% three-point shooters and all of that, and Horace Grant and all these like star role players. Look at Giannis. Like Giannis hasn't gotten any worse. It's, Chris Middleton was a star role player when they won the championship. He got hurt, was no longer serviceable. Milwaukee loses in the first round the next 3 years. It's not like, Giannis is all of a sudden a terrible player. Like, you know what I mean? Now we move to the Lakers because you can go and use every star player in that scenario. You have to have star players, star role players in the NBA to compete for a championship. It has never happened to where you haven't had that. Ray Allen has to hit that shot in that game. It's just in order for LeBron's legacy, I understand LeBron's the best player and all of that. So when you move to this year with the Lakers, before the playoffs started, what did I tell you guys? The Lakers role players are awful. I didn't wait till game 4 or 5 to tell you that. So when I see JJ Redick not play any of those guys down the stretch, the first time in NBA history that has ever happened, that's not a coincidence. These guys are awful. You know what I mean? So how can we judge a player based on winning or not winning when their team isn't up to snuff? And that's something that we knew when the trade happened. We said, okay, this is a move for the future. This year, they have to complete this roster. Okay? Last thing, because I know I'm on this long-ass road here I'm driving, right? Just to get next door. Defense. Luka is a bad defender. I understand that. Okay? But number one, he has gotten better each year. When we like someone, as far as as a collective, we give people breaks. When we don't like someone, their weakness becomes the worst thing ever in the history of the world. I'm not too old to remember, Steph Curry was a bad defender. That was a thing. James Harden was a worse defender than Luka. If I don't know if people are young enough to remember, James Harden was a way worse defender than Luka. That's by eye test and by metrics. He has 4 years where he was one of the worst defenders of all time, okay? By metrics, I'm talking about. So, but we gave James Harden, today's James Harden, is as 2 years ago and for 3 years in a row, he was the best guard post defender in the league. He's still a very elite guard post defender. And basically what I'm saying is as he got older, he noticed what his strengths were. He became more, passable on the perimeter. And then he became a good post defender. Okay. Steph Curry got stronger as he aged and became a better defender. We gave them time. Luka has already shown he's gotten better. Now, Zach Lowe, in the clip you showed me, the words that Zach Lowe used was when Luka wants to defend or when the moment is when he has to defend, he will defend. That's when you don't like someone, and that's the terms you use. What I use is he's gotten better every year, like literally by metrics and by eye test. So why don't we say, okay, this guy is improving, not you have to be this now. Like, okay, he's improving. He's not Ben Simmons. He's not like ever not getting better ever. You know what I mean? So there, boom, that's my take.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I think like when I look at Luca, I see a limited defender. I see a player that teams are comfortable attacking, and what I find kind of inextricably tied to the bad defense is like kind of like the whining and like not only will he occasionally get blown by, and everybody, the best defenders get beat. It's just that's just a fact. You can't just say isolate one or two plays and say, "Oh man, this guy can't defend." The best defenders get beat, but I think when you're looking at Luka, you'll have the situations where he'll get beat defensively. He'll also like waste possessions where he's fussing about officiating, and to me, it's not always the defense. Like he'll have turnovers where he's like trying to bait a foul and then loses the ball and then he's whining and doesn't get back and it gives a transition bucket. My thing that he's a tremendous player. I'm not disputing that. But and maybe it happens in time, but I think when you're in these bigger playoff games and you're in a tight series, like so the possessions matter more and there's less room to have bad possessions. And whether you're having it because you're getting blown by or you're having it because you lose a rebound and you're looking at the refs and Anthony Edwards comes down the baseline and dunks on you because you're almost not paying attention. Like there's a lot of things that happen, and he's so great that there's an expectation that, man, you should realize this is hurting your team and you should tighten up in this area. And when I listened to what Zach Lowe said, that's where that's coming from. It's like when he's focused on defending, he's smart. He can read the game a bit. He can get places positionally and be disruptive or be effective or
That's not
impactful.
all of a sudden, though. That's the way he's framing it and the way that you're agreeing with it is that it's all of a sudden. Like when he decides to, when he chooses to. That's the way that your guys are framing it. But that's not the case. The case is
that's not like what I'm framing it as is that he's a player, and kind of what I started out by saying, he is a player that will let external things essentially distract him. And he's got to manage his own emotions in a way that he minimizes that in the game. We're not perfect. We're always gonna, miss a play or argue a call here and there. But there's a range that he has to narrow that focus and get better. Because I think for a player as great as he is, there's too many possessions that are lost because he's mentally somewhere else, whether it's worrying about a call that didn't get made or something like that. And I think what the way I interpret it, Low, is it's like, when he's kind of locks in and isn't bothered by that extra stuff, he's measurably more effective on both
That's what I
ends.
disagree with. Yeah, see, that's I know I'm hearing you right, and I know I read him right, and I listened to Zach Rowe correctly. When he locks in, that's just not accurate. That's not fundamentally accurate because he's a guy who has gotten better. That's what you guys are basically saying, that he has an off-on switch. That's what you guys are saying. He has an off-on switch when he decides he wants to lock in and play defense or not. And when he's distracted, if you will, that's an off-on switch. That's what that is. That's not what's going on here. He has. That's not. He's a guy who has gotten better each year on the defensive end. Because if he's a guy who can switch it off and on, what happened in year 2, 3 when that switch wasn't there? When he was just plainly, flat out a really bad defender. There was no switch. You understand? So what I'm saying is he's a guy who has gotten better each year.
Hey, to say, well, that's fine. He can get better each year, but he could still also be easily distracted. They're not mutually
I don't
exclusive.
think the distraction has much to do with the defense. To say any is useless or not correct, but it's not solely attached to the defense.
It's on both ends, and I said that.
Yeah, with offensive and turnovers.
And also have to think like defense. If I turn the ball over above the foul line offensively, and I don't get back or don't move, that's defense. It's the transition that I'm losing. And a lot of these problems, like a lot of your defensive problems, it's not purely playing defense. It's not transitioning from offense to defense quickly. And again, even if I drive and then and Dwayne Wade was notorious for this. Like I drive, I feel like there's contact. I either lay on the ground an extra second or turn to the referee for 2 seconds and I'm not engaged in getting back. I'm not defending. Now, it's not like a set defensive situation where I'm guarding my guy and I can't keep him in front of me. But those are all valuable possessions that turn games, and it's magnified in the playoffs when the games are close.
Yes, and no.
I mean, that's just not. As possessions.
Yes,
and the more efficient you are, whether it's an offensive possession, a defensive possession, and then the transitions are both ways. And if you win games if you're just more efficient on a possession by possession.
You are correct in that. I'm saying that all of that doesn't correlate and attach to Luka Doncic. Now this is something I have to go to stats. I just looked it up, but as you're talking, I'm like, okay, I don't think that to be true. So yeah, like as far as like turnovers, he's not even like top 3. He's technically tied for 5th. But like for example, in this postseason alone, Anthony Edwards is higher, averages more turnovers than Luka. Okay, along with Brunson and 2 other guys. Okay. And in the regular season, turnovers per game, he's like 8th or 9th. Okay, so when again, I know from eye test we see, and he may have a high turnover game here or there, but like overall, and then also my larger point is, if Luka was an all-world defender with this offense, they're not getting out of this series. And so I think people's focus, let me finish. I think people's focus is in the wrong area. He's a weak defender and he needs to continue to get better? Yes. Can his conditioning probably get better? Yes. I think that's even overplayed too, the conditioning part. But anyway, those 2 places probably can get better. But those are marginal as far as winning and losing playoff games. Those are marginal pieces to get better. What you need is your one center you have on your roster to be better enough to play more than 4 minutes in a fucking playoff game. That's what you need. You need LeBron James, who is the second star on the team, your second max player. You only have 2 max players on that team. And he's the GOAT. He's old. I know he's old and he's a GOAT to a lot of people. I understand all that. But I'm saying for Luka, what Luka needs is his star running mate to score more than 0 points in each clutch moment in each fourth quarter of the playoffs. You have to have that to win a game. You have to have role players. You have to have your second star do something offensively. Luka is the only person who can manufacture anything on offense. You need Austin Reeves to look like regular season Austin Reeves and not this Spider-Man guy who's playing now. If you don't have those things, you're not winning. If Luka was Kawhi Leonard in 2015, if he was Scottie Pippen in fucking 99, you have to have these things or you're losing. That's my point overall.
Yeah, but I'm not really arguing your point. That we're arguing completely different things.
I'm saying that should be the focal point. People like Zach Lowe, people like Kendrick Perkins, people like who are on the mainstream media.
First, nothing Kendrick Perkins says. No, and I'm serious about this. Nothing he says should ever be valued on any level. He is just a clickbait fucking moron. And that the thing is again, we have to eliminate these type of people because they speak to the idiots and give the idiots some false sense of knowledge, and then they carry that forward into a discussion, and it doesn't help anybody. It just like muddies the waters of whatever the fuck's going on. So he doesn't need to have a voice at all. Cut his tongue out and mail it to his mama. I don't give a shit. So that's first off. But no, like we are arguing different things. Like I'm looking at it, okay, if we're talking about Luca, here's what he's doing, here's what some shortcomings are. This is factual. If we're talking about the Lakers against the Timberwolves, this specific series, the failure of any of the Laker bench players to have an impact in the series, that's another discussion. And yeah, you can't win any type of championship or go very far, no matter who you are, if you don't have complementary functioning pieces around you. The teams that have won of late show us that. Every time you get, it's the Celtics, it's the Warriors, it's whoever before. You always look at that roster and it's like, damn, they got whatever 2-3 great players at the top of the roster, but over this 2-month playoff process, look how many other dudes came up big in some way, or just was reliable in whatever it was to deliver that. And you go back, you kind of broke down and alluded to the Bulls, and let's not forget we talked about Pippen and Rodman and Grant, but like the role that Steve Kerr and the role that John Paxson,
those were the 40% 3-point shooters I was mentioning.
They all make those plays, and that's what, to win, that's what it takes. There's no doubt about it. That's not even a debate. And this Laker team is not balanced enough, and they've been exposed in this series, collectively. But that's, I don't know. We started the thing. I thought the premise was, well, okay, let's evaluate what
they're tied to each other in my eyes, and that's how I view basketball.
But they can also, for purposes of discussion, be separated. And the reason why I think it's important to do that is because, Luka's a star, like all these, Anthony Edwards is a star. Like even the stars have to be able to look in the mirror and say, man, I kind of fucked that up. Or I need to be better in this area if I want to go farther. I mean, we're looking at Anthony Edwards, who's having a great series, and it appears they'll probably win this. But, this is a guy that last year kind of ran out of gas against Dallas and just didn't have anything left. I don't know, like if this team continues to play well and advance into this, is he still going to be sharp if they get to a conference final, or is it going to be the same story where he just kind of personally runs out of gas? And I know the same will be true. The Thunder appear to be a much better team. And if you get to a Thunder Minnesota series in the final, I'm still liking, the Thunder to win this thing over Anthony Edwards, despite how well he may or may not play. But on an individual level, I think, he should have took from last year. I can't gas out in the conference final.
No.
I've got to.
Yeah, and 100%. I think Anthony Edwards came into this season, he's already showing he's in much better shape. He took a weakness and he worked on it. And because we, as a collective, because we like Anthony Edwards, nobody crushed Anthony Edwards when he did run out of gas, when he was, quote unquote, out of shape. That's what that is. You know what I mean? He wasn't in good enough shape to compete at a high level in the playoffs. And nobody crushed him because, as a collective, we like Anthony Edwards, and that's sort of the thing I'm talking about too with Luka.
No, I agree with that, but I do think this is interesting because, and we've talked about this before, Anthony Edwards has not had a great run since the Olympics, as far as like he's put his foot in his mouth a few times. He's had some very serious off court drama, and some of his decision making and public statements in that arena have been pretty poor. He's not been kind of the lovable, likable guy that he was last year for a lot of people. But this is one of the great things about sport is that, like, when you are an athlete and you play great, it tends to make a lot of that other stuff go
Oh,
away.
100%.
And, and so right now it's going in his favor. But again, athletes live very fragile lives because, they could win this series next game and he could, play great. But again, if he gets to the next round or he gets to the Thunder and doesn't play well, he's coming.
Motherfuckers turn like this. They turn on you like this, especially in the NBA. Like as we're living in the moment, it seems different. But like we look at guys so differently. Like Charles Barkley, in a lot of minds, take the post career of announcing and commentating and take all of that out. People look at Charles Barkley, they view him as a loser. But do you know how many dominant and great first round, second round series Charles Barkley had? You know, in the moment, how many like people at that time were saying, "Oh my God, Charles Barkley is a fucking monster. How can he be stopped? Or is he the first, or is he the second or third best power forward of all time? Number one at that time because he was before the Duncan and all of those guys. But when you get to the conference finals, and NBA finals, I think he made it. Did he make it once?
Yeah. One time, and I thought he had a very good finals. He just Jordan was better.
And then after that, they're going to view you as a loser. So it is fickle in that sense. Like I say, I always harp to they make it out to be that Luka has all of these harsh, god awful weaknesses. But he was just in the finals, like, you know what I mean? Not even a calendar year ago. So that's how quick they can turn it. That's how fickle the NBA is, especially in the playoffs.
And I think like a couple things about that. Like, again, as the actual athlete, like you've got to realize that, like, if you do get it right and win a title, it does kind of change a lot of that. It takes a lot of that away. For that. And the guys that break through, like, Dirk, and particularly I want to focus on like singular champions like Dirk, like Giannis. Couple of those guys, you kind of get certified in a way. And again, it's still, there's always, you live in a public environment and and it's defined by winning and losing. You're always going to be critiqued. But when you do get to a title as like a singular star or do it one time, you do get a certain level of certification that evades guys like Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, some of those dudes that really had great careers but never won a title. And it is a special thing. And that's why I think it's so important for Luka to, if it ain't this year, which it appears it's not, like, get this Lakers group to to get better pieces and run it back and hopefully get through. Because again, when you stand on top of the mountain, everybody's got to shut up, even if it's just for a year. They got to shut up.
Yeah.
Goal to me, that's the goal for all these great players. I mean, that's what you want to get to, and because again, legacy wise, historically, you're 100% right. Charles Barkley is always going to be perceived in a certain way that's not necessarily indicative or fully indicative of his his overall career. But that this is the business you're in. You have to accept that, and you have to accept too, without letting it really destroy you, that you will fail and you will get torn apart for it. But it's how you react to that. Like, do you literally just get back in the lab, grind, attack weaknesses, maybe whatever, push your team to make some better moves and bring in some better pieces? Or do you kind of let those types of things like eat away at you?
Do you turn into Ben Simmons? I mean, that is the thing. What's funny about that too, because we gotta talk about some other things there. But what's funny about that is like whatever. Before the series started, I was like, oh yeah, I'm rooting for the Lakers and Luka and all of this and that, and I hate Anthony Edwards because he doesn't take care of his kids and all of that stuff. And I mean, it's true. That's what's in the news. Is what he said out of his own mouth. But as the series started and as I'm watching it, it's like I end up rooting for Anthony Edwards, like when he has it going. Like I only truly hated two athletes in my entire like literally,
Really?
yeah, only two,
Wow.
and they're both in the NBA, and that's Dwayne Wade and Ben Simmons. Those are only really like two guys. Like I just wish the absolute worst for in every aspect of life in basketball and their prospective sport.
He had cancer, so maybe it's working for you.
There's a man upstairs. I mean, and that's the thing. There's only been two guys, and those are the two guys. And Anthony Edwards, you can't fucking hate that guy. He's so fucking great, at what he does, and he turns it up at certain times. And I love his just the way he approaches the game. He's fucking pushing LeBron all over the place. And I'm a fucking LeBron guy. I mean, I don't think he's the GOAT, but I think he's up there. And I love how he's fucking, like LeBron is 40. Yes, please treat him like he's fucking 40. You know what I mean? I do the same thing though with guys at the gym. Young guys do that to me when I'm at the fucking gym. So I like that.
No, it's funny though. Like to me, in the gym, most guys are too stupid to do that. I mean, I'm old as dirt, and it's like there's certain things that I just cannot do. Like I can't deal with. But most players are too stupid to do that. Like they literally don't get what you could beat me like 99 out of 100 times doing certain stuff, but these guys are so dumb they don't do it consistently.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. But I mean, like
Coach Turner's son who knows what to do.
Yeah. He does. That's it. Like he literally knows exactly what to do to make the game as miserable as possible for me. And credit to him to do that. But that's the way. But like, yeah, I mean, there's just a thing. I remember reading in an article, it was actually about Serena Williams, and it just talked about the aristocracy of talent. And it's like, when people are just really great at something, we're lucky to enjoy it. And again, you could get worked up about things that they might say or do off the court, outside of the game. But like when a great performer is doing what they do, if you care about the game and you care about greatness, you have to appreciate what they're doing.
No, definitely understand. Definitely agree with that. Now let's get to some other series here. Really quick here again. OKC and the Cavs, they have progressed to the next round. All right. Now these are two teams who dominated in the regular season, but they're two teams that we kind of haven't talked about much in the playoffs, and that's anywhere. Right. Now, respectively, they're number one seeds and they've dominated their first round matchups. But do you feel any differently about these two teams? Now, for example, for myself, I wasn't really a believer in the Cavs, and I'm still not. Okay. OKC, before the season, I picked them to win. I have changed that since the playoffs have started, and I've moved to Boston. All right. So, for you, are you feeling any different about these two teams after they dominated their first round matchups?
No, I mean, I rate the Thunder higher than the Cavs, but to me, both top seeds did exactly what you're supposed to do. They like dog walked an inferior opponent with minimum games and on to the next. So I don't think we necessarily learned much about these two teams beyond the fact that they're engaged and they're ready to go. And that's what they're doing exactly what a top seed is supposed to do. They're behaving like a top seed. Credit to both of them. I still favor the Celtics over the Cavs, head to head. But we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, yeah. What's the chance you give the Cavs? Like, do you think they have a real deal chance? Have you watched enough of the Cavs this year to think they have a real deal chance against the Celtics?
I think they have a chance. But if I have to bet my own money, I think the Celtics are just going to be grittier and find a way to win. And they're just going to be more comfortable in that moment. But I think they have a chance, and it's the Celtics are a very interesting team. I mean, again, they've got a degree, they're the defending champions, but like a lot of times you watch them, they feel kind of beatable. They will drop one game to Orlando. I was at the game on Sunday. Um, you definitely felt like the Celtics were the better team the whole night, but it's 91 all with 4:15 to play, and it could have gone either way. Now that again, and maybe this is what makes the Celtics the Celtics. After the timeout at 4:15 at 91 all, they go on a 10-1 run and effectively kill the game. And so they kind of rose to the moment when they had to. But it wasn't like they were the better team. They, got up, by 6, got up by double figures, and then just kind of managed the rest of the game, which is, kind of what the Cavs did to the Heat. They just broke them. Get your lead, grow your lead. They quit. That's pretty much the recipe. But Boston doesn't always do that. And maybe the Magic are better than the Heat or whatever. You can argue that.
We
But
understand.
we've seen this in the past with the Celtics. They don't always just roll through people, even when they appear to be the better team.
Yeah, they'll give you a window.
Yeah.
They'll give you a window, and that's the one thing about the Celtics. I think that's in the end, whenever this run ends, I think that's what will differentiate themselves from like the all-time great teams. Because I do believe in the end we will have to compare them to them because they're so young. Even if they're not going to win every single year, but I do think they're in this whatever 8 to 9 year window where they're going to be in the championship mix every year.
Yeah.
But because of that factor, because they do, man, they always have, and they still do current date. They will give teams opportunities in games, even games that they win. Like you said, you were just at that game where you they don't put teams away, man. And that's the one thing. But I still think, like you said, their overall talent and experience and grit is what will pull them over in a series. And with the Cavs, man, it's one of those things with them, though. It's an old term, but I really have to see it to believe it because I just do not believe it. They'll have to make me a believer, and if so, whatever. But I just don't believe it, man. OKC, I want to see them against a better opponent. I don't like how they ended the season. I don't like how they ended the regular season. But again, maybe they were bored and just ready to get to the playoffs.
But I thought the way in game 1 against Memphis, the way they kind of jumped on them and they were just so aggressive, they flipped a switch themselves. Like however sloppy they were down the stretch, they definitely came to the playoffs with a mentality of, we're here to handle.
I don't know because John Morant said he had figured them out.
Sure. With another injury.
He said if he didn't get hurt, the OKC was in real trouble, man. They were going down. So
yeah. But nah. And to address them playing sloppy down the stretch, I just think the defensive effort and energy, like they were playing like maniacs in that first game. I mean, they were just flying around. Yeah. And that's just that, that's indicative of okay, we're here to fuck people up. And that's, it doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean you win the title. But as far as how they finished, I think they definitely, you don't have to worry that team's gone. This team is locked in.
No, for sure. All right, let's quickly move over here to the NFL. Now we talked about the Shadur situation. Right while the day of the draft or something like that, and all that good stuff. We anticipated the slide in the draft because of what some coaches were saying and things of that nature. So now he's on the Browns, 5th-round draft pick, right? And they have what, 4 or 5 quarterbacks on the roster. You know what I mean? And this picture here, which is hard to see, just showing over the past 25 years how many quarterbacks the Browns have had as far as starting quarterbacks. And now you have Joe Flacco, you have Kenny Pickett, you have Dylan Gabriel, and of course Deshaun Watson. All
Do they
right.
still have R2 or did they get rid of him?
Who?
DTR?
No, they got rid of him.
Good. He sucked.
So what's the real like? Do you expect to see Shedeur in this regular season?
I think it's wide open, and I think they've hurt themselves as a team because I don't think it's ever worked where you have 2 rookie quarterbacks. Like, and not even rookie. I'll go back to like the Dallas Cowboys back in the day. They had Steve Walsh, who played for Jimmy Johnson at Miami, and then they drafted Troy Aikman the following year. And like, what do you do? Like, eventually it became Troy Aikman's deal, and they had to move on from Steve Walsh, and he never really had much of a career. Then you go.
More. Oh, go ahead. You're probably getting there. Go ahead.
More recently, you have like RG3. I believe he went second. They traded, a lot of stuff to get him, and then they draft Kirk Cousins a couple rounds later. And again, 2 quarterbacks, rookies. Like, what are we doing? Like, there's no plan for that. You can't tell me there's a plan for that. You just kind of hope that one of these guys distinguishes themselves. And
that's the plan.
Yeah. Really, it's kind of a non-plan. So I just think that it's going to be, it's just a dumb and horrible situation for both guys, really. I mean, if you're Dylan Gabriel, you're like, this team doesn't have any good quarterbacks. They took me in the 3rd round. Granted, it's not first round, but I should have a chance to play. And now 2 rounds later, you draft another guy who's also talented. And, I mean, I don't know who's better out of those 2 guys. I really don't.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, Dylan Gabriel got the short end of the stick. He got a real short end of the stick because, Shedeur comes in with so much popularity. And, even with a guy, even with, my guy, Tebow, when he got into the league, man, like with the Broncos, they started off struggling. The fans were just screaming, Tebow, without even knowing that he was struggling in practice. You know what I mean? Like, and they just know the name and they want to see him play. So Dylan is not even going to have a opportunity or chance to grow on the field. He's not going to be able to be Caleb and how Caleb was able to struggle throughout the season at times and grow and improve. Dylan is not going to have that opportunity at all.
And he's definitely not going to have what Caleb Williams had because he's, neither one of these guys is a 1st-round pick now. And that matters in how they're going to be treated by these organizations going forward. But I mean, I kind of feel, even though he was drafted higher than Shedeur, I think he has to have the Kirk Cousins mentality. Just put your head down, grind, do what you can with the opportunities you get. Don't let the outside noise do anything, and become the favorite guy in the building. Let Shedeur make mistakes. But you walk into that building day one, you say hi to the janitor, the receptionist, everybody you meet. You get donuts for everybody, and you work your ass off on the field. And you just be that guy that that just kind of has grassroots internal love from the organization. You're not going to win the public love thing because Shedeur, he's going to have haters and he's going to have defenders and he's going to have a circus. And if he doesn't focus on grinding with the work and focus on treating people in that building right and being a guy that's valued in that locker room, he's hurting himself. And you can't control that. But if you're Dylan Gabriel, you can control yourself. And you do all the right shit and you work your ass off and take what comes. Because if you do that right, even if they feel compelled to go with Shedeur at some point, if you've put in the work and you perform when given the opportunity, you'll have another opportunity somewhere else. And that's all. asked for as a third round pick, to be honest. So he did get the short end of the stick. He can't be happy. Like I just whatever. But I also like it also speaks to the dynamics of the slide itself because you know Dion Shador, no doubt they packaged themselves as a franchise quarterback. That was their vibe. That was their energy. And that type of player goes in the first round, usually in the first half of the first round. When that didn't happen, and when every team in the league passes you by, now it's basically clear that you're not regarded as a starter and you're going to kind of come in like this to a team with 4 quarterbacks and a guy they drafted ahead of you in your same exact draft, and you're going to have to fight from behind and get there. And you know the external stuff, the people that that love you, that think you got screwed and whatever, that ain't going to do a damn thing for you on the field. Like
No, it's not. It's not. Let me ask you this. Let's move into that though. Do you think he got screwed? Do you buy into that? What that it was something external going on and all of that stuff there.
It feels that way. I mean, it does feel that way. It does
It feels
feel.
dirty.
Yeah, it feels dirty, but again, like a lot of times, like dirty doesn't happen like as a pre-planned, premeditated thing always. It doesn't happen like, whatever, 24 hours before the draft, there's a conference call with the owners and said, hey, we're going to fuck this guy. Here's how we're going to.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that way. But like things happen in like tipping points. Like, once he slid and then it starts side, then I think question like now, you're in the second or third round and you weren't thinking about taking him. You got your eyes on other guys, and now it's like, well, is he enough of a talent that we just change our plan and just get him and and it just then it's kind of like you're just seeing more and more teams pass him up, and then at some point it's like, well, hey, how long is he going to be here? Maybe we'll just grab him in the 5th round. It just becomes like a practical thing. If nobody's touching him, you don't need. I guess what I'm trying to say, you don't need 32 teams in lockstep of some sort of grand conspiracy to say we ain't taking this guy. Like you might need a handful of teams that it would make sense to not take him. And then a lot of the other teams are just going to kind of fall in and be like, really on our, list anyway. We thought he'd be gone and whatever. I'm like, well, are the Chiefs going to take him? Like, what would that do? You know what I mean? Almost half the league was a no take for other reasons.
I like your take on that. It's almost as if like a natural slide. Okay, like a couple of teams, whatever, and then after that it's a natural slide. And I haven't heard that particular take. My take is different. I buy into the fact of the reports. It makes a lot of sense, and I agree with. I think the narrative of Dion, they don't want to draft Dion's son, and it's but they were okay with Manning and all of that. I think all of that is BS and foolishness. I think all of that is fucking foolishness. If the Dion piece of it, I think if you're a weird person who thinks race had anything to do with this, I think that's total BS. I think what happened is I think that Shedeur and Dion, who was both of their agents. I know he's not Shiloh's agent anymore. Or advisor or whatever.
That was the best lines of the whole draft. Not working out so good, so I had to hire one.
Right. I think what happened is that they, the couple of teams that they didn't want to go to, he bombed the interviews. Now, me as an HR recruiter for damn near 10 years now, you'll be shocked and surprised what people who really don't care if they get the job or not, they're kind of just whatever, how they will act and do in an interview, or if you can tell if somebody's maybe their mom's forcing them to do the interview or whatever. Like you can tell, like it's there, and this is an NFL quarterback, like a job, like this is the number one position in the number one sport in America. You can't come to an interview and fucking bomb it and then think, okay, just because the second, third round, that particular team is just going to take you just because you're sliding. That team is like, fucking screw you. You came to this interview, you wasn't prepared, you didn't know anything about what we had going on or appeared not to. You didn't care. You didn't show any fucking thing. You didn't speak. Whatever happened, I know that he really bombed those interviews to the teams he didn't want to go to. And then he probably had two teams that he wasn't in that probably did tell him, hey, if you're here at this particular spot, we'll take them. And hell, they had different plans. And then after that, it's like fucking whatever. And I think that's what happened. I think he screwed himself.
I agree with that, and I just this is one of the things that I honestly hate most about Dion, and it's almost like a Trump quality in that he's psychologically incapable of admitting error or misjudgment or not like apologizing for anything. He's like a consummate like spin guy, and he always like when he's genuinely fucked, he like leans into like the Lord and the scripture bullshit.
Oh.
And never a guy.
Oh, man.
Hey, we misjudged this, but I would love to know like what their thinking was, and were they lied to? Like, did somebody, one of these teams, give you like a strong, hey, we got you, whatever, we're picking 9, it is what it is. And we got you no matter what. And they relied on that to their detriment, and then that team went another way. Or did they just, like you said, misjudge this so badly and misevaluate, that he was this lock top 10 guy when nobody was giving that strong signal, and they proceeded, like they had, an ace up their sleeve to kind of bomb selected interviews and act like it didn't matter because, hey, we're going here anyway. Like,
Yeah.
I would love to know the truth of that, but the reality is we will never know the truth of that because Dion's not that type of person.
No, we'll never know. And like you said, a couple of a month or two prior to the draft, whenever it was, I mean, Dion was the main guy. Yeah. There's some teams that we're just not going to consider going to. You know what I mean? Like, he viewed Shedeur as this blue chip quarterback that was going to be neck and neck with Cam. And then to that, he doesn't do the, any of the, he doesn't do the official combine. He doesn't do the Senior Bowl or whatever, any of those things. And outside of Cam and Shedeur, every other quarterback did all of those things.
Yeah.
And Shedeur should have been right there with Dylan Gabriel and all of those other guys in the official combine and in the Senior Bowl, because he's not an elite quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He's a Kirk Cousins quarterback.
But that's, and again, it's like, what is like the truth of it? Because for most of the college season, we're fringe Heisman guy, first round guy. This is a talented guy. And then like, if you're like, who's lying to who on any of this? It becomes like a really weird thing.
I think they were lying to themselves.
Well, that's possible too.
Because Shedeur was never in contention to be the number 1 overall pick.
But I don't disagree with that. But there were multiple people outside of the Sanders family who had him in mock drafts in the first round and this and that until the very end. So some of those people are operating off of weird stuff. I would also love to know, like, because there's a bunch of videos of him and Cam working out. So they must have done it multiple times. I don't know if they were like working out amongst themselves or they were with like one of these like quarterback guru guys. But I would love to have either been or gotten some quality feedback from these things that like, yeah, Cam's like totally different than Shedeur. Like as far
I mean, I've read a lot. I've read a ton of that.
Really?
McShay and all of those top guys, that Cam Ward has a much stronger arm. He's much more athletic. He's a liver arm. All of those terms that you utilize.
Yeah, I've heard that in general from those guys. I'm talking about whoever was at those like workouts that
Seeing
they
them
had.
both in person at the same
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
like, and if they were working with a particular, like quarterback specialist or whatever, like I'd love to hear what that guy had to say over a beer or two.
What I'd love to hear, what I'd love to know is what happened with the guys that they know. Like what happened with Tom Brady?
Yeah.
Like he's the owner of the Raiders. I mean, like what happened with that? Like we should have read the tea leaves because, right before the heavy NFL draft talk, the Raiders go out and make a move for Geno. I mean, it's not like they didn't know the draft was coming up and Shedeur was going to be in the draft. You know what I mean? Like why do that so early and just and you could have still taken Shedeur. Like Geno is a veteran quarterback.
Yeah, you could get
you trade for Kyler Murray or something.
Yeah, up until the 5th round, you could have gotten Shedeur, and you already had Genty, and you've got Geno's a quality quarterback, and you could have, with Brock Bowers, you really could have, hey, we got a quarterback for now, a quarterback for the future.
Like that was his mentor. That was a guy he practiced with all of these as younger years, and he's stayed in contact with and throw with in off seasons. And what happened with that? What happened with the NFL ties? That Dion has that the Shedeur sees in every off season with the NFL, teams, if you will, coaches or what have you. Like, I wonder what happened. What had those people changed, or were they lying to Dion the entire time just because Dion is a lovable person and they want to stay in Dion's graces?
That's what I'm saying. Like who's lying to who in all of this? Were they lying to themselves? Were people kind of buddying up to them and talking the talk, but not really believing in it? It's a weird dynamic, as far as that goes. And I always had some level of concern of what's it going to look like when he's coached by somebody other than his dad.
Yeah.
And again, part of that is rooted in like my own experience coaching my kids, is that, if you kind of know what you're doing, there's, you can do a lot for your kid to get them ready for things and teach them. But there's also like a different dynamic when it's father son. And then when you have to kind of give that away, my belief with my own son, is that he's only respected 2 coaches in his life, and he's probably had 50.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And, it's just like he sees through people. Like if you don't know what you're doing, he figures that out pretty quick, and he just really doesn't fuck with you after that.
Are you one of those 2 coaches?
I'm right, I am. And the other one.
Yes, he came on the show.
Yeah. Other than that.
What's his name again?
Darnell.
Yes.
Yeah. Other than that.
Coach Darnell.
That's it. So.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Let's get to a couple of quick things there, all right?
Yeah.
Have you seen this? Mikey Williams, man, the former phenom is what I call him now, but he was at UCF, and before he was. You say what?
Was he ever really a phenom?
Yeah, that's true. But in a news cycle that we kind of missed, Shaq became. It's funny, they're calling it like GM now. It's been a couple of these new moves that's happened in college basketball.
Yeah.
And they're calling it a GM, but basically he's the GM of Sacramento State, right? And Mikey Williams has committed. He decommitted from UCF about a couple of months ago, and now he has committed to play for Shaq and Mike Bibby over at Sacramento State. What are your thoughts on Mikey? Because I know that he was a guy that you're saying that is slipping away. It's slipping away. So is this his last chance?
Yeah, I can't stand him. I think he's a complete idiot, and I don't think he'll ever succeed. He was like, I mean, honestly, like his whatever high school AAU clips, he was a total douchebag. He was actually like a taller version of Julian Newman. Like he would just take terrible shots and force things, and he'd make plays and then talk to people, and just an asshole. And then I remember the most revealing thing. It was about a 5 minutes. I listened to him get interviewed on a podcast the same week that I heard Wemby talk to JJ Redick. And JJ Redick and Wemby had a discussion for adults with purpose. And this guy was talking about his big goal was to be a billionaire by the age of 25. This guy hadn't even played a minute in college basketball, hadn't been, will never play a minute in the NBA. And that's his big goal. He is everything I hate in sports. He's just a flashover substance guy who doesn't understand what it is to really be good at your sport and what it takes to level up through that and become a top guy in the NBA. And that's really, I mean, when you're talking about being a billionaire and this sort of stuff, it's really the only fucking standard that matters. If you're just, hey, I really enjoyed basketball, got to play in college, played overseas a few years and moved on with my life. If that's your goal, credit to you, that's an admirable goal. But if you're telling me you want to be a billionaire by 25 and you're a basketball player, you're trying to level up in the game. And that was why it was so, when I heard those dudes in the same week, Wemby was literally saying everything right. Like he knew he was going into the NBA, but he was also aware like of every challenge that was coming his way. He knew about basically the poor health record of extremely tall guys, and he was talking about all the things he's doing to kind of beat that. He was talking about like he was acknowledging that like he's got a lot of work to do, but like that he saw his future as being a star and like he was going to do the work to do that. And this other guy's barely talking about basketball, just about money and nonsense. And I don't have any respect for him, and I don't think that you're doing that you're going to have any success. Now, why is this happening? Because whoever heard of Sacramento State before Mike became the general manager? In somebody's name that people are familiar with, and maybe that attracts some eyeballs to what you're doing, and hopefully you recruit some real players so that you might have success in the court. This guy didn't play at UCF. Like he transferred because he wasn't invited back. I mean, this was
You think? Oh, wow.
100%.
You think so?
He did nothing. He
did close to nothing.
He barely played. This is not a guy who like put up 17 a game at UCF and looking for a better, bigger profile program and more NIL money. You're going to Sacramento State. I didn't know Sacramento State existed 60 days ago. And that's where your billion-dollar career is going. Eat a tampon, bitch.
He's a part of the Get the Bag crew, man. Shout out to the Get the Bag crew.
No shout out to those guys. Crash and burn it.
He's a new prospect for that team, and we'll see if he gets there. He got some work to do.
He's a fucking therapist. He might need to find the Lord.
Oh yeah, that works for a ton. Works for a ton. What was I going to say here, man? We have right now. Hold on, let me see. Where's my phone? Giannis almost got into a fight with Halliburton's dad.
Really?
Yeah. That's the thing that's trending now. Christian sent it to me.
Post game.
Yeah. Post game, got into it with his dad after they were, when you're dapping up after the game. So we'll have to see what happens there. What happened? It looks like, yeah, we have to see what happens. I can't wait till they interview one of those guys and lets us know.
What is, I mean, in all seriousness, your son just won the series. Like, what do you got to say to
I don't
Giannis?
know. It looks like Giannis was he was pushed or something. I can't wait to see that. But I just wanted to mention that really quick. But another thing before it slips my mind, because this is the last thing I wanted to kind of bring up here, and it's like a big thing going on right now. So, Bill Belichick's girlfriend. Okay, I'm shifting gears heavy. So she had an interview, a big interview or whatever, and then whatever, I don't know what magazine or what whatever reporter did it. But in there, they're asking questions about the relationship and how did you meet Bill and whatever, and saying, oh, we met on a plane and we just had so much in common on the plane, and then we had so much in common, talking about whatever this. And at the time, she's 24 now, so at the time she's whatever 21 or whatever. And Bill Belichick is what?
70.
Yeah, 70. So he's probably at the time
His age differential is way more than Shay Shay's.
but that's what I'm headed with this. So the discourse now after that interview, and she was dismissive about some things, but she was saying how Bill has her heading some meetings now over there at the school, and she's in charge of some department, and she has a big role, and she's helping out, and she loves it, and this and that. So some people are saying, okay, how this a lot of the discourse is. People are saying it's disgusting that Bill is there, and how can the institution allow that? She's basically the age of a lot of the college students there, and how can the parents be okay with that? So you got that situation. Of course, we talked at length about the Shannon Sharpe situation last week. In your eyes, which one is more distasteful?
They're equally distasteful, but for different reasons. So Shannon Sharpe, he put himself in a stupid position with with the OnlyFans model. It was sexually driven. I don't think you can't convince me, unless I literally witnessed that she got raped, but it's a creepy dynamic, and he should have never fooled with it for sure. And at the end of the day, I think that that's enough to tip the scales of public opinion against him on this, and it's going to really probably be the end of him having any sort of meaningful media career.
Pause on that. I watched the last nightcap I watched. When you watch nightcap before all of this, I mean, it takes like 30 minutes for the show to start because he has like 1,000 ads, and then he has his own ads and all of that. The last show started with one ad, his Shay Shay Cognac ad,
Yeah.
and then the show started. It was like 3 minutes and the show was in. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, what's going on here? And so I don't know if the partners have already, there has been no news reported that they've already stepped away, but there's something going on. There's smoke.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Now, but shifting to the Belichick thing, you have an even worse age disparity. And, what he's doing, that's just super bizarre is he is allowing her into his business, into the football stuff, so ridiculous. I mean, I didn't see the interview, but I saw there was an interview of him where she was interjecting from off the screen. I'm Bill fucking Belichick. But you don't fucking handle me. That's it. Even if you were a legitimate manager, it's I've been answering questions on a camera as I see fit for 35 fucking years. You don't need to do anything. And the fact that he's essentially allowing that to happen is just bizarre and just really kind of unacceptable. And it just speaks to like he's probably mentally decaying.
Yeah.
You know,
It's something. It's
what? He has no credentials to do anything in a football program. You know,
the
and
girl.
who does that? Like who, you know, like what high level coach or whatever like allows their wife or puts their significant other in some situation where they're like involved in my day to day job.
I've
Like,
never seen.
yeah, that just makes no sense at all.
Not only have I not ever seen it, I never see the women. Like I mean, not see, but I never hear them. I never like like it's very fucking rare. Even I know LeBron is a player, but like even Savannah, like I don't know if I've ever heard a fucking voice. Like you know what I mean? Like not to say like I'm not saying that women don't have a place to speak and all that stuff, but I'm just saying guys who are coaches, GMs, top level players, like yeah, the women are there like when certain events and stuff are going on, but when it's like the place of business or conducting, like I never hear them for any reason at all.
Yeah, when you have no credentials and like there is like in the pro game, like in the NFL, there are like women assistant coaches on some NFL teams that
Yeah,
take a
I'm talking about the wives. I'm talking
no,
about the wives of the
I'm
guys.
going to that. I'm going to get there. But what I'm saying is like the more women coaches you have in the NFL, the more inevitable it becomes that at some point one of them may marry, another coach. It's not ridiculous. Might marry a player for crying out loud. It's just something that may happen. And then like, yeah, if they're coach with each other at some school or NFL team, they're both coaching professionals who happen to be married. But you got some 24-year-old girl off the fucking airplane and you're kind of giving her responsibilities in the UNC football program. Come on, man. That's not it. I mean, and I'll have respect for any woman that puts in the grind and can flat out coach. I'm not saying that can't happen or shouldn't happen, but that's not the resume of this person. And it's just like, yeah, it just is super weird and just a bad look for everybody.
Yeah, for me it's super weird, but I'm just not there yet for the distasteful part. Yeah, I know he's a really old guy, but at least she's down there mid-20s. I don't know. I mean, it's like I heard this thing today. I had never heard this before, and maybe Shannon Sharp and Bill Belichick has never heard this before. But apparently, they say if you're a man, you're supposed to cut your age in half and then add 7. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay, yeah. Apparently, that's like this huge thing for a man as far as the age of the women you're supposed to date.
Okay, so like the minimum of the women I would date, if it would cut my age in half and then add 7 years.
And that's the minimum age, whatever that number is the minimum age of the girl you're supposed to be dating or whatever. I didn't know that.
Shannon Sharp's 54 or 56. 56, I think.
56 now, 54 when he met her, and she was 19.
So you do 27 plus 7 would be 34. So he shouldn't be fooling with anybody 33 and below.
Right. That's
I do wonder what the origin if that is.
Yeah. That's like supposed to be like this.
And again, if we give Belichick 70, 35 plus 7 is 42. So he should be Cougars only.
Yeah.
Okay. That's funny. I wonder what the origin of that is.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. And it's funny too what J. Cole said. What did J. Cole say? I don't want to get it wrong, but he said something about a woman's body count, you add whatever. Somebody in the comments can let me know. But anyway, but with Bill, I just as far as the age of the women, I'm not. I understand, but I'm not 100% there yet because it's like whatever. Everyone grew up in this same this. All the rules, the laws, and all of that. We all grew up with the same rules and laws. The rules and laws state 18 or over. Like, that's the thing. Like, Like for pedophiles and all this and that, we say, damn, you just can't fuck like R. Kelly. You can't just wait to her 18th birthday. In reality, that's really what we're saying. And like these guys did. So I don't understand what the big problem is behind that. But with Bill, I do understand with the football piece and all of that. And you're out of college. And then with Shannon, OnlyFans.
Like, I just feel like when people are not close in age or stage of life, it's extreme like that. There's just an element of it just doesn't feel organic. It feels opportunistic on both sides. It's
But we
like
don't know that for sure. We don't know that for sure.
I know a lot about people. I've seen
But if you see me, like if you know whatever, I was coming out of school and you saw me with Tracy Ellis Ross or Holly Berry or something, it's not me being opportunistic. It's I understand the dynamic with men and women are different. If you're a younger woman, you're probably looking for money. I understand that, but I'm just saying, like it's not
down to like that's what it comes down to. Like
okay. The dynamic of men and women.
yeah, because you got the older, wealthier person can provide the younger person with financial advantage, whatever that happens to look like for the person. And the older person has, that resource in supply, and they get either a greater sense of like control over the younger person, and or they kind of get this weird kind of like thrill of kind of being dipped in the fountain of youth, and they're just hanging out with the younger people, and it makes them feel, I guess, younger and more relevant. And I definitely believe that's a big part of it. Like
I do.
Belichick, like, so she probably laughs at his crusty jokes, sucks his crusty dick, and and like makes him feel like he's like funny and vibrant and whatever, in a way that he probably hasn't had in a very long time.
Yeah, and to be honest, man, it's not. I saw this post earlier today too. It's not a ton of men who want to date women their age for various reasons. I'm a guy myself. Of course I do when it's time, but I don't fucking like dating women my age. It's different reasons. I just don't like it. There's some, it's I saw a funny post earlier today. It was like, yeah, women my age are fat and out of shape, have multiple kids, they run through, they're one track minded, meaning like, they only want to do things their way. They don't want to, you know what I mean? They want to fucking go on one day to get married. They want to they have this fucking idea of what they want to do. And it's like, so I understand why throughout the history of mankind that men do date younger. Now, this is a different level we're talking about with Bill and Shannon as far as dating younger, but I do understand just the base of men typically date younger.
Well, I mean,
and I understand the reverse. I understand women wanting to date older.
Yeah, the reality is for a lot, like, again, the reality for a lot of people is the older you get, the more baggage you have. Mentally, physically, psychologically, like you just have more baggage. You're like you said, you're more set in your ways or more whatever. And it's like that's not always very compatible for essentially two people that are set in their ways. It's maybe more compatible for me to find somebody who's doesn't have the same level of baggage as me. They're more open to whatever, and I'm just more comfortable in that situation than kind of battling baggage with somebody else. Like, it's just.
I'm gonna tell you something too, man. The stuff that was in Shannon Sharp text, man. A lot of 55-year-old women that's into that stuff. Black women that's into that stuff. I know black women want, why won't you date black women your age? Y'all ain't really up for that. Hey, man, too many of my aunties that's into all of that stuff. That young white girl was talking. She was talking some wild stuff. Almost as if that motherfucker somebody was feeding her information to text. I don't even know. Like, I don't know what 19, 20-year-old girl even can like fathom that stuff. OnlyFans is OnlyFans. That shit ain't. always, that ain't porn out all the time.
But you get the. I think when you put yourself out there like that, you get the comments. You hear some stuff. I bet, and you learn quick.
It would have to be a lot of quick. That's quick, man. 1920 is quick. I wasn't talking like that in 1920. Not
You weren't
like
you were an OnlyFans model. Like an attractive female who puts herself in that space is gonna hear all sorts of creepy stuff.
Mm.
Like, and you whatever. But hey, we're gonna have to shut this down because my phone is on like 5%.
Yeah, it's over. I'm just fucking around with Shannon and Bill. Yeah, it's over. See you guys, man. Next week we'll be back live Wednesday on the bench on YouTube. Later.